Well, hello, everybody. Good afternoon. It's 1 p.m. on the East Coast, and we're about to start our today's webinars. Welcome to CFP Board's Education Verification webinar. We're very excited that you're able to join us in today's session. This is actually the first in a series of webinars we're developing to increase our engagement and our partnership with the registered programs. We want to bring information that you need, and we want to open the lines of communication so that we can get to learn more about the processes that we need to make sure our registered programs are at their most optimal state. So for today's webinar, we created today's webinar because we know many of you have questions about education verification. So we wanted to put together something that would allow all of us a chance to get the most updated information from the folks who know it best. And they are today's presenters, Tim Fields and Eva Marie. Both of them are stellar team members here in our education team. So before we get started, I just want to give a little bit of some housekeeping information. The first thing is, obviously, I have to say, I'm Joel Brown, the host for today's webinar. I'm the Director of Education here at CFP Board. So for today's webinar is 15 minutes long. It will be recorded and it will be posted on YouTube in a few days. Also, we have designated a Q&A period at the end of the webinar. So we're asking that you make sure you have your questions ready. And then at the when we open up the Q&A period, we'll ask you to write those questions in the chat. And both Eva Marie and Tim will be answering those questions. And then once the webinar is over, we will send you a follow-up email with some additional information pertinent to the webinar. And we'll also ask that if you have time, you participate in a survey giving us feedback on today's webinar. So without further ado, let's get started. Let me give you a little bit of some context in terms of what we're going to discuss today. So for today's webinar, we're going to basically, as you see here on the screen, we're going to have an overview of what the process is. We're going to talk about how we actually do it. And most importantly, we'll talk about some common problems that many of you may have faced working with this process before. We'll also look at some special cases and just give you some pointers in terms of best practices that you may be able to apply. At the end, we'll have a little review where we'll have a couple of questions just to kind of test our knowledge of the process. And then we will open it up at the end for Q&A. We know you'll have questions. If we're not able to get to all the questions because of time, we ask that you please send us an email so that we can answer those questions if we're not able to get to them during today's session. So for today's session, then, what I'm going to do now is we're going to start with the first section, which is education verification, the overview, and I'm going to turn it over to Tim Fields. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, thank you, Joel. Thanks to everyone for joining us today. So we'd like to just provide an overview of the process of education verification. So we're starting off with, let's move to the next slide there, Joel. There we go. So we're starting off with the concept of education verification. What is it? Okay, so education verification is when a registered program affirms to CFP Board that a student has successfully completed all of the courses within its registered program. And programs affirm completion by uploading eligibility lists of student information to CFP Board. So what is the rationale of having registered programs affirm completion of coursework? Well, uploading your student information to our system ensures that your program has accurate data reflected in your CCI report. The CCI report can be accessed in your program's online portal and provides a wealth of information, such as the number of total graduates, how many sat for the exam, how many passed an exam, how many have become CFP professionals in comparison to the average of other registered programs. So all this data can be very helpful to you and to your program. And please note that registered programs are required to upload information on all students who complete its program. A program must upload even if a student does not intend to take the CFP exam. And so the next part of the process is the timeline. And this is a common question that we get from programs is when is the best time to upload student information? And the answer to that is that programs should upload as soon as the student has completed the coursework. So uploading right away ensures that your program's CCI data is accurate and up to date. And also, I just wanted to make an important point that in order to be eligible to take the CFP exam, all candidates must have coursework verified by an education verification deadline. So, for example, for the upcoming July exam, all candidates who are registered must have their coursework verified by June 18th. And if they don't, then they will be deregistered from the exam. So uploading as soon as your student completes the program ensures their eligibility to take the CFP exam. So moving on to the next part, location. Where does a program upload student information? Programs can access the education verification system by logging into their online portal. A link to the portal is found in the program director or primary contact CFP board accounts. And then finally, the process, once you're in the program's online portal, this is where you would submit the eligibility lists of students who have completed the program. And last but not least, this is the review part. So after uploading, I would suggest that you would reach out to your students and ask them to verify their CFP board account reflects the education that has just been uploaded. That would help all around, and that would be much appreciated.
Thank you, Tim. I
Sure.
appreciate this. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the uh, step-by-step process to complete education verification. And I'm going to turn it over now to Eva Marie Ginocchio, our registered program specialist, who's going to talk about that.
Thank you, Joelle. Good afternoon, all. So I'll be walking you through a high-level version of how to submit an eligibility upload for your students to receive the education verification. After the webinar today, you will also receive more information and more detailed version of the step-by-step, which includes how to complete the upload from start to finish and a copy of the education verification tip sheet, which will both be helpful for you when you're going to submit students. So let's begin. So once you have all of your students' names, email addresses, start dates, completion dates to the template found on the upload eligibility instructions, you are ready to submit the CSV file you have saved to your computer. You will select the program name from the drop-down list and select the program your students have completed to be uploaded to. So on the screen, you'll see an example, you'll see the please select, and then you may see 1 or 2 or 3, depending on how many registered program accounts you have, of all the names and the titles of the programs you have. So you will select that specific program that the students are being uploaded to. And then the next, we'll go on to the next slide here. And then once you have selected your program name, you will then have the option to browse your files and select the previously saved CSV file, which includes the list of the students you are submitting. And then moving on to the next slide, you will then be able to upload the eligibility. So once you have selected that file, and it will come up here where you'll see browse and then the name of the file, you will then select the upload eligibility. And on the next slide, you will see an example of a table that is populated, as you see on the screen, of the list of the students that you are submitting. This is a perfect example of what a good upload would look like. There are no errors recorded, no red marks that need to be edited. You see the students' first names on the left-hand side, then follows the last names. If you include their student ID number, remember that is optional. You'll see those listed. In addition, you'll see the CFP Board ID, again, optional. And then you will follow with the start date, completion date, and their email addresses. Remember, the 5 that are absolutely required to submit the eligibility report are the first name, last name, the email addresses, the start dates, and completion dates. Once everything has been inputted with no errors, you are ready to select the blue Submit Eligibility button. Once you have selected the blue eligibility button, you will see a confirm submission appear on your screen as it does on the right-hand side of the screen, and you will then select confirm to submit your eligibility report. Once you have submitted, what is a great resource that you all have access to is you can browse the history. So if you don't remember, or if a student asks you, hey, where can I confirm that my education has been verified? You can look through the history tools to see your previous uploads. Thank you. Back to
Thanks,
you.
Eva Marie. Oh, thanks, Eva Marie. We're going to go back to Tim, who's going to talk about the common problems and solutions in student data upload. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. Yeah, so I just wanted to share some common issues that we see, that keep uploaded information from properly matching with candidate accounts. One of the top things is just the names. So sometimes candidates can set up a CFP board account with their formal name or even a nickname, and then the upload that comes from the school is different, which then our system won't match it. So just like the first example here for Bobby Smith. So he attended the register program under Bobby Smith and was uploaded under that name, but in his CFP board account, he's more formal, Robert Smith. And of course, nicknames like Nick, Nicholas, suffixes, sometimes that can throw our system off. And then hyphenated last names. I see that quite a bit. And that again doesn't allow our system to match it properly. So my solution is that if you could ask the student to provide their account information, name, email, that kind of thing, before you upload, then it'll match perfectly. And then, and I mentioned about the email, but yeah, that's another issue that can throw off a proper match. Sometimes, so many different emails, and I don't have it listed on this slide, but a lot of times candidates create multiple accounts with us. So the upload will match perfectly to an account, but they have 5 with us, and so we can that causes an issue that we take care of. But anyway, yeah, the solution is I would say on any kind of information when you're uploading, just ask the student to provide what their information is listed on in the CFP account, and that would help us. And this is one I see quite a lot. It's just the first name and the last name on the spreadsheet that's uploaded is switched. So the last name is first and the first name is second. And that will definitely not match. And so what I do a lot of times when candidates call and they're saying, hey, I know my register program uploaded, and so then I check, but I don't see it on my search because the names are flipped. But I do that all the time now, as I actually switch the names in my search, and I catch quite a few. So yeah, so the solution on this is just to double check the names on the spreadsheet before uploading to make sure the first name and last name are in the right cells. And so this one here, I wanted to share with you, this is an issue that's on our end. So when a candidate creates an account with CFP Board, they're asked to identify the school that they are attending the register program. And, schools have similar names, and sometimes the student will pick the wrong school. And so that can lead to an upload that's done perfectly to not match to the candidate's account. And then to compound that, if the candidate does select the correct school, then they have a drop-down menu that comes down and shows every program that that school has had. And that means that there are programs that have been closed, inactive, and then of course there's the active one that's there. And the student is not quite sure which one it is, so they just select which one they think, but it may be the incorrect program. And that will also cause an upload not to match properly. So the solution to this would be just to provide the students with the current title of the register program and ask students to just check their CFP board account to ensure that the register program information is correctly listed.
So
All right.
Tim, I think we're going to continue with you talking on our special cases, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Go ahead.
Okay, so what we wanted to include in this is when candidates take courses at multiple register programs, we call this the combo status. And when candidates take courses at multiple register programs, they are required to self-report their course documentation directly to CFP Board. And so register programs are not allowed to upload students to our system if they have completed courseworks elsewhere. So that's a key thing to remember. I also included transcript review. We have a process that students can pursue if they believe that courses that they took outside of a registered program covered, the required topics. So they would submit an application. Credit is not guaranteed, and we do charge a $250 non-refundable fee for that formal review of their syllabi and the transcript to see if credit would be granted. And just a special note, the capstone course cannot be granted through the transcript review process. That's a common question that I get.
Thank you, Tim. I'm going to turn it over back to Eva Marie, who is going to talk to us about just a few best practices overall in terms of the education verification process. Eva Marie?
Thank you, Joelle. So we learned a lot of information today about, how to go through and submit an education verification, what are some things needed for our students. But we also have some great best practices to ensure the success of submitting the education verification. The first best practice or recommendation is that we encourage students to create CFP board accounts early on in their reg program. This is a great first step for students to gain access to scholarship opportunities, mentorship opportunities, and reminders on what's needed to prepare for the CFP exam on their journey to becoming CFP professionals. Another best practice is to upload as soon as the student completes the program. That means all of their coursework has been successfully completed, including full completion of the capstone course. So as soon as that final grade is in for the capstone, go ahead and upload them. The students do not need to be graduated from the university to be uploaded. While receiving their baccalaureate degree is a vital requirement to becoming a CFP professional, it is not a requirement to sit for the exam. So upload those students as soon as they're done your registered program. Lastly, obtaining the student's CFP board ID numbers. Not only does this benefit your students, but it also helps with the matching process of the education verification. Tim kind of went through some of the nuances that we see that we want to get fixed. So to ensure that your students gets that match as soon as possible, list their CFP board ID number, and it's almost done immediately. And of course, if there's any issues that ever arise, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We are here to help you and to ensure that all of your students have what they need so they can be successful CFP professionals. Back to you, Joelle.
Thank you, Eva Marie. So we want to do now just a kind of a review of some of the concepts that we have just discussed. We're going to have I'm going to post two questions, and I'm going to ask that you post in the chat your response. and Eva Marie is going to tell us who posted either first or the folks who had the response correct. And then after that, we're going to use the rest of our session to get into the Q&A. We know that you probably have a lot of questions about today's process. So we want to have enough time so that we can address those questions, maybe go back to a few of the examples that we've shared if there is any specific case that you want us to go over, and then we'll close our webinar. So the first question is, if a student completes coursework at multiple registered programs, the student must self-report its coursework, his or her coursework completion information directly to CFP Board. Is this true or is this false? Let's see what people put in the chat, and Eva Marie will let us know what were the responses.
And you can feel free to post your answers in the Q&A.
Sorry, in the Q&A, not the chat. Thank you for the correction, Eva Marie.
And we got our first answer, our first correct answer from D. It is true.
Perfect. Okay, good. And this is something that is very important, because sometimes we have students that complete their coursework in different programs. So it's important to have this information so that you can relay that back to the student. Perfect. Have we gotten any other true responses or?
Several. We got some from Jennifer, Julie, Omar, and Mark. So everyone is saying true. Everybody's on the same answer. So excellent.
Okay, good. So we did our job on that one. Okay, let's go to the second question. As soon as a student completes all of the courses within a registered program, the program must affirm completion by uploading to CFP Board's education verification system. True or false?
And we got our first answer from Barkley. That is true. Same with Steven. That's also true. Mark, true. D, true. Omar, true. We're getting all the truths coming through.
Awesome. This is excellent. Yes, of course, this is one of those things. And one of the things that I just want to emphasize with folks, we can't stress this enough. This discussion has come up at several levels within CFP Board. Make sure that the students create their accounts. That's a big issue that basically gets everything started. So some programs, what they actually do is, as soon as a student declares that they are going to major in financial planning, or as soon as they become a student, the first thing they ask is that the student do create their accounts. So this is something that we really want to stress, to make sure that the students get all of that information that they need as they go through the program, and that you can have access to all the information you need for the education verification. So now we've come up to about almost half of an hour in terms of our discussion about what is happening. So we're going to dedicate the rest of our time now to the questions that you may have. So for this, what we had said at the beginning was that we would like for you to go into the Q&A and write your questions. Eva Marie will read them out loud, so that either Eva Marie or Tim or myself can go ahead and respond to those questions. So we want to give you a few minutes to start posting any questions that you may have about the process. And while you do that, I just want to let you know that we do have, as I said at the beginning, several other webinars that we're putting together. Our next webinar is going to be our overview of registered program processes. So what we're looking at today is education verification, but we also know that there are questions in other aspects of the registered program processes. So we're going to have a webinar on that one. We're also putting together a webinar in the future in terms of how to develop. We're looking to put together a webinar on AI issues, teaching with AI, introducing or incorporating AI in our registered programs. So this is going to be a webinar to kind of discuss those issues, to see where the industry is in terms of incorporating AI in education. So we're hoping that you're able to join us for these webinars that will be coming up in the future. Another one that we're looking to put together, many of you have asked, how do you put together an advisory board for your registered program? Many of you already have done that, but some of you may not have, may want more information or maybe thinking about how to do that. So we're going to have a webinar on that topic in the next few months as well. So now let's go back to Eva Marie to see if there are any questions posted.
Yes, we do have a couple questions coming in. The first question I got a couple on is, will this be recorded? Yes, this webinar will be recorded and it will be posted on our YouTube channel. It may be by next week that you will have received this, but we will be sending you an email with some information that we talked about today, such as the step-by-step SOP on how to submit an education verification tip sheet, some other information, and in addition to the link, so you may access this at any time. And a question that we got as well is, what if they start in their undergraduate program and finish in our certificate program? Do I still report, or do the students report?
Tim, do you have that one?
So just so I understand the question, so they took courses in two separate registered programs?
So it looks like it is their same registered program. It's just identified as one of their undergraduate and their other one, which is their certificate program.
Well, yeah, since there would be two registered programs, then they would need to self-report. So all they would need to do is to email education at CFP Board their transcript, and then I would go through that and ensure that they completed those courses, and then I would update the candidate account.
Thank you, Tim.
Awesome.
And then another question that we have coming in is, first, should I determine the completion date? Should it be the last day of class? So the completion date is the date in which the student has completed the full register program. So the final date in where they have finished their capstone course, as that's typically the last course that the students take. So as soon as that final grade is in, that is determined to be the last day of when they have completed the program. And second, what should I do if a student has a middle name? So if a student has a middle name, I don't believe that we ask for that on the template form, so you will just not include it. You'll just include their first name and their last name.
Yeah, and Eva Marie, I would just jump in there if I can. That I would ask that student, what does their CFP board account look like? And we have in our system a field for the middle name. So if you upload the first and last name, then it would properly match. I would go ahead and ask them to to let you know what does our CFP board account look like, and then take it from there. And then just use first and last name.
Thank you, Tim.
Sure.
We do have a couple more questions coming in. So
Sure.
if the students have a different email or name, as long as the account number is correct, does it matter if there are discrepancies when submitting the eligibility form?
That is a great question because our system is finicky in some ways, and having the CFP board ID number is great. But then if like the name is really up there, so if the name is quite different, then it will not match. And that's so the more accurate the uploaded information matches to the CFP board account, the better. So again, ask them what their CFP board account looks like, what's the information they provided, and then use that for the uploads.
Great. Thank you, Tim. If a student is a transfer student to our school but has completed our program, do they need to self-submit their verification, or should they be included in the submission from our program?
If the student has completed all of the courses in your program, then that's when you would upload them to our system. If there's any transfer credits in, then they would need to self-report directly to us at CFP Board. And then when they self-report, then what I will do is look at their the transcript of one institution and then the course completions from another, and to ensure that those were completed at the time that these programs were active, or if they were approved courses. So yeah, they would need to self-report.
Thank you. And is there a new template posted each year when submitting the forms? So going back to the step-by-step, there is a link to the template when you go through the instructions to submit the education verification. That link will take you to the most updated version of the template you should use when submitting the education verification. If there's any ever updates to our system, you will always be the first to know. We will always send out email reminders with new additions or new processes. The process has not changed since 2023. So that same template that we've been using since 2023 is the one you should be using from this point forward. And then another question that we have coming in is typically when students are submitting, we need to use the names as it appears in their registrar's office and on their transcript. We need to educate the students to utilize the same name of the CFP board account. Absolutely, because as Tim was saying earlier, that is the best way to make sure that those accounts are being matched with the submissions that you're including on your form. And another question that we keep also receiving is there a fee for students who are self-reporting?
No, there's not. And so if a student has taken courses at multiple registered programs and took the approved courses and they submit that information to us via email, I will confirm that and that no, there is no fee for self-reporting.
Thank you, Tim.
Sure.
Another question is what happens if the program director uploads a list and there is more than one student who do not match for some reason? Will CFP board follow up?
Yes. So what I do is that one of my primary responsibilities is that I monitor all of the students or the candidates that are going through each exam cycle. So I'm monitoring them very closely in their coursework. And so I can see like, okay, we need this. Okay. And I have all this analysis that I do that actually locates the unmatched uploads. And so then I match them if they need, I reach out to register programs or talk to the candidate directly just to find out exactly, to make sure that the records are correct. But yes, we are looking at the system, combing through it, and to make sure that the unmatched are matched.
Thank you, Tim.
Sure.
In a particular situation, what if a student comes in who did not take courses from a financial planning registered program and the program director determined that they would need to take additional courses? In this case, should they report her eligibility if she completes the 5 courses at their program? What's the process for that?
So my understanding, okay, so if a student comes in and they take several courses that are in the register program, but they didn't take all of the courses in that program. So for students that only take a portion, the program should not upload them to our system, but rather direct the student to self-report uh, their coursework directly to CFP Board. CFP Board will then look at the approved coursework and give credit for that. And then if the student took courses at a registered program, another one, then we can grant credit, no problem at all. However, if the student took courses outside of a registered program, meaning these courses have not been vetted or approved by CFP Board, that is when that student, I would inform the student they would have to go through the transcript review process. And that involves the student filling out an application and detailing which courses covered which required topics. And they would submit the syllabi of that course, of those courses. And then I would put that application together. And then Joelle would take time and do a formal review of that coursework and syllabi and determine if credit is granted. If not, then we let them know that they need to then take those courses at an approved CFP board program.
Thank you, Tim.
Sure.
And what if somebody already has a CPA or a JD and takes the capstone course? Is there something different, a different process they need to do?
That's a really good question. So if someone has a CPA or a CFA or CHFC, there's quite a few of them, an attorney, then they would qualify for the accelerated path. So What this means is that they can opt out of most of the coursework except for the capstone. Remember, every candidate needs to take the capstone course. It's part of the coursework requirement, and they can't take the exam until they complete the capstone. Now, you'd mentioned JD, and that's a special nuance there, that a JD does not qualify someone for the accelerated path. It's just their attorney's license that does. So the JD would satisfy our degree requirement, of course, but it would not qualify for accelerated path.
Thank you, Tim. So that concludes all the questions that I have received so far. So I will turn it back over to Joelle. Oh, sorry, we got one more.
Go ahead.
So if we have a student who took classes over 10 years ago as part of their bachelor's degree, and their program was officially registered in 2024, the student completed all the remaining classes after January 2024, and they have continuously studying at the same university. In this case, should the student self-report?
Avon, can you repeat that question again? I just want to make sure
Absolutely. Yeah,
I understand.
absolutely. So it looks like this program director has a student who took classes 10 years ago as a
Mhm.
part of their bachelor's degree, but their program was not offered until and registered until 2024. So 10 years ago, they took the courses,
Oh,
but
got it.
recently they just became registered a program. The student completed all the remaining classes after January 2024, and they have continuously studying at the same university. In this case, should the student self-report?
Well, I believe so because I guess I'm sorry I'm not understanding the question fully, but from what I do understand is that if the student took some courses before it was an approved program, then then they would have to self-report if they took just several courses that are approved. So is the register program, transferring in courses that they took prior to them being an approved program? I guess that's where I'm not understanding the question fully. But again, for a register program to upload, the student has to complete all of the approved courses within that program.
And any specific questions too that you want to talk about, any really special cases, the team is really happy to have, Zoom calls, phone calls to discuss any nuances on your end so we can, clarify and clear up and make sure your students are as ready to go as they need to be. And then another couple follow-up questions. Would a JD that is licensed qualified for the accelerated program and they are a practicing lawyer?
I have seen one state, I forget which one it is right now, but there is a state that does allow that. And so in that case, I would need to see the license, like their ability to practice law. So that's what I would ask the candidate to provide. So yeah, if they are practicing an attorney and the state allows that, then yes, then that would qualify.
Thank you, Tim. Back to you, Joelle.
Thank you so much, Eva Marie. And thank you all for attending today's webinar. We are hoping that what the information that we provided today is of help to you. We know that there may still be a couple of questions that you may want to ask or some additional information. Please feel free to reach out to us at the emails that we provided, register programs at CFP Board or education at CFP Board. We'd be more than happy to answer those questions. And if the question needs further discussion, we can even set up a Zoom call so we can sit and talk to you and figure out how we address the issue that you may have. As I said before, we will send out a follow-up email with additional information. You can also see today's presentation later this week on YouTube. And we're asking that you please, when we send our follow-up email, that if you have the time, please respond to the survey to give us some feedback in terms of how we did today. We are planning a few more of these, and we want to make sure that make sure that your experience attending this webinar is as meaningful as possible, that you can get enough information. For the next webinars that are coming up, we're planning some really interesting things. We may even have some prizes or raffles that we may implement. We're kind of thinking of what things we want to bring to make sure that not only you get the information that you need, but that you enjoy the experience. So thank you again. I'm Joel Brown Grant, Director of Education here at CFP Board. We look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Thank you so much.